Okay, it is 6 o'clock, and I will call to order the Plainfield Charter Township Regular Board Meeting for July 11th, 2022. We'll begin our meeting with an invocation and pledge of allegiance led by Kathleen.
Okay, let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, thank you for the gift of life and the opportunity to serve the people of Plainfield Township. We come to you today asking for your wisdom, guidance, and support. Give us a spirit of service to guide us and to be the leaders our community needs. Help us to act with integrity, conviction, and to listen with understanding and goodwill. Allow us to nurture the bonds of community. Fill us with your grace, Lord, as we make decisions that affect our community we serve, and remind us that all we do here today and all that we accomplish is for your glory. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
All right, thank you, Kathleen. Next item is public comments. If there's any public comments, I really don't see public, so we will just close the floor for public comments and move on to the review of our consent agenda. Without any questions, comments, concerns from the board, I would seek a motion for the approval of the agenda, including the consent agenda and accounts payable.
I move to approve the agenda, including the consent agenda and accounts payable.
Thank you, Frank. Support?
Second.
Thank you, Jack. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Pfaff?
Yes.
Mr. Brinkman?
Yes.
Mr. Hagedorn?
Yes.
Mrs. Morrow? Yes. Ms. Beatty?
Yes.
Ms. Postmish, yes. Mr. Coleman?
Yes. Okay, first item is a presentation from the Michigan Titanium Triathlon event. Cameron, you want to introduce folks?
All right. So this is an event that's going on, I've forgotten how many years that we've had this now. 10 years. 10 years.
We're not counting the COVID year. We skipped that one completely.
All right. No one's counting COVID year for anything, so that's good. You're fine. So, this is one of the great events that we've been able to attract to Plainfield Township, and we appreciate the organizers that brought it here. And we make it sound like we've done any of the work, and really it's just working with the organizers. So appreciate you coming and explaining to the board what this year's event is going to look like. Just remind us how the event runs and what's new this year. So with that, take it away.
You got it. This is a swim bike run event, and it's very unique in Michigan. We do have a lot of triathlons here.
Can you make sure the mic is on? Is the green light on?
Oh, there it is. Okay,
Perfect.
sorry. This is a swim bike run event, and what's unique about it is that we are the only one in Michigan that is this distance triathlon. It's 140.6 miles. If you've heard of the brand Ironman, that's kind of the big version of this, but we are the only one in Michigan of this length. We have shorter lengths as well, but we pull regionally, we pull locally, we pull nationally. A lot of athletes come here to do this distance, so it's great to be able to showcase our community in West Michigan. We are going into our 10th year this year, which is very exciting. We're growing, which is great. After COVID, a lot of these type events have been shrinking a little bit, but we've been able to kind of maintain and actually improve upon our numbers through a lot of effort, a lot of marketing, and a lot of just staying relevant to our participant base and reminding them that we're still here and still racing. One other thing about this year, which is exciting, is we are the USA Triathlon Ultra Distance National Championship. So we have athletes coming literally from everywhere in the country to compete. And if they qualify, they will actually race with the World Championship, which I think is in Sweden. I think so. Yeah, so it's kind of a big deal, which is great. We were this one other year in 2019, but it got cut short, unfortunately, because of weather. But we are going to be the championship next year as well. So we're very excited to get that distinction and to just have this 10th anniversary this year. So we'll jump right in. We, Tries for Health, John and I, and our staff, we host the two biggest independent triathlons in Michigan, Michigan Titanium along with Grand Rapids Triathlon, our June event. They're both right around 1,000 or more people, which is exciting, a couple thousand spectators. We bring a lot of people to the area. Both John and I are both USA Triathlon certified race directors. That's something we have to keep up. And we're going to be going for our level 2 certification soon as well. And there's only a few of those in the country. So we're trying to keep kind of our qualifications up and make this really a top-notch event even more so. We've hosted numerous national championships, regional championships with USA Triathlon, state championships. So they kind of come back to us a lot, which is nice to kind of host these special events. 10th anniversary, like I said, is this year, not counting COVID year. And we partner with the YMCA. We have our packet pickup and expo over there and have for a number of years at the Wolverine YMCA. They're our official charity partner, but we also work with other charities that use our event to raise money, like Team World Vision. They provide clean water kind of globally, and they've raised $250,000 at Mai Tai alone over the past 6 years. So we work with large and small charities who want to use this as a fundraising vehicle for their cause. So all set. So as you can see, the demographics, we pull very heavily from Michigan. 65% of last year's athletes were from Michigan. They're usually, they've got pretty good jobs. They're pretty high. They're higher earners usually. Have 4-year degrees, and as well as masters. But like I said, even though we pull a lot from Michigan, we do usually pull from about 40 different states every year. So they're still coming from all over. As far as road closures, an event like this, it covers 140.6 miles. Some of that is a looped course, so it's not 140.6 continuous miles, thankfully for the athletes and for us, but they do a 2.5-mile swim in Versluis, which is a mile and a quarter loop basically, and then they'll bike out Cannonsburg towards Lowell, and then the road closures that I started with are really on Northland Drive because our ground zero is right in Versluis Park. Our transition area where the athletes go in and out of all day long is right there. They swim there. Our finish line's on the drive right there in the park. We have tents and spectators all throughout there. So we have the closure in the closest lane. I guess that would be the northbound lane from basically Cannonsburg Road all the way down to Grand River Drive. And then Grand River Drive is usually closed down to about not quite, basically 3 mile into Ada just a little bit because that's our run course. It's about a six or so mile looped course there that athletes will do up to 4 times to get their marathon in. And then we have aid stations along there and whatnot. So basically the closures run through midnight because we start at 7 and we go all the way to midnight for those last finishers. And we did have a gentleman come through last year at almost 1 a.m. So we kept it open for him because he was going to make it, beyond the time, but still he made it. So we just kept all the lights on for him, and it was a nice moment. All right, so these are the distances. The full iron is really what USA Triathlon calls ultra distance now, which is a 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike, which again goes out Cannonsburg Road to Murray Lake Road, 3 mile, and kind of goes out eventually to Potter's Road, which is way out in Lowell, even towards Ionia. And so they'll go out there, come back, and for the ones doing that full iron ultra distance, they'll do that twice. So they'll come almost back to the park and then turn around and do it again. So it could be a 7-8 hour bike ride for some of those folks. So it's definitely a very grueling part of their race. And then they follow it up with just a simple little marathon at the end, which it sounds crazy, but when they're in that mindset, they've gotten off their bike after 8 hours, it does seem like only a marathon to them. So, but then they quickly find out that they earn those 26 miles every single step of it. And then we've got the half iron distance, which is exactly what it says. It's half of the ultra. So it's a 1.2 mile swim in Versluis, a 56 mile bike, so 1 loop of our course, and then a 13.1 mile half marathon, which ends up being about 3 loops of our run course. And then the last distance that we have below that is the Olympic, which essentially is almost half of a half. It's like a quarter ultra, I guess you could call it. The swim's a little bit longer, 1,500 meters, which equates to about a little less than a mile. But then they have a 40-kilometer bike and then a 10K run, which ends up being about 2 loops of the run course. So, and then we have duathlons and aqua bikes, which are a swim bike without the run portion, relays, different configurations of the swim bike run. So this is our main race area. As we said, is an overhead view of Versailles Park. We swim right there on the beach. We send them in rows of 5 at a time. We've got a 1.2-mile course out there with numerous boats, kayakers, lifeguards, divers, marine patrol. We usually work with fire and rescue. So we've got quite a presence on the water. This year at Grand Rapids Tri, I think we had upwards of 45 different watercraft out there. So we're bringing that to this event as well. We've really kind of upped our water safety just because it's an area that you can never really be too safe out there. So once they come out of the swim, they go into the transition area, which is the red box there. That is the large parking lot that we put all of our bike racks. Athletes are in and out of there all day long. So they'll come from the swim in there, jump on their bike, go out on the bike course, they'll come back in, and then they will go back in there, dump their bike, get their running shoes on, and they will then go out on the run. And eventually they will come into our finish line, which is right there on Versailles Drive. Swim course here, as you can see, we set buoys usually the day before the event, and then once the last swimmers are out, our boats and kayakers usually pull all of the buoys back in so that we're free and clear of the lake pretty early in the morning. Our last swimmers have to get out of there usually before about 10 o'clock, I believe. So we're minimally impacting Versailles, on actual race day. Here's our bike. It's a very simple out and back. We start at the park and go down Northland Drive to Cannonsburg Road, make a right, and then they basically go way out on Potter's Road, all the way across Johnson Road, if you guys are familiar with Ionia County out there. So it's a very simple out and back. We've got turnaround signs, mile markers, police at critical intersections, volunteers at intersections. We usually get about 300 volunteers for this event. So our volunteer size is as big as a lot of the other triathlons around in the area. So it just kind of shows you the scope of what we're covering. And then this is our run course. It used to be much longer than this. I think probably 2015 or 16. I remember it being much longer as a participant, going all the way down almost to Knapp, Knapp there at the light. But they shortened it up, which was a great move because we were able to provide the same number of aid stations in a much shorter looped course that they hit multiple times. So for those people doing the ultra, they'll hit our aid stations 4 different laps times 3 aid stations, that's 12 aid stations. So they're getting it every couple miles, and they really do rely on that because they get their hydration, their nutrition. We have medical out there if anybody's having a little bit of issue. It's really just a nice course on Grand River, and it does get pretty shaded in spots, which they appreciate on hotter race years. And that's it. So this year we're expecting upwards of 1,000 athletes, which will be a record or very close to it, depending on how many show up. We usually get about a 10% no-show with athletes that, for whatever reason, they're not feeling good that morning. The weather might be bad. It's pretty typical for triathlons to get those numbers, but we'll have a record number of ultra distance athletes this year, so that distance is growing. Which we're pretty proud of, and then just the event as a whole is growing. We're definitely back to pre-COVID numbers, so we're looking to hopefully keep that trend going forward.
All right, thank you. And I apologize to Bill Fisher. I didn't give him an opportunity to speak before. It's just to give him the credit. He's the one that works with the organizers to make sure that everything goes smoothly, make sure that our Buildings and Grounds Department knows what's going on so that we can get everything coordinated. Bill, do you have anything you want to add?
They run a great event, and we don't charge them anything for use of the park. Why? Because of all the people they bring to our businesses, to our local economy, et cetera. So we're excited to have them and glad our park can be their host. And correct me if I'm wrong, but this is one of their favorite places to do this because of the swim portion, because Versailles Lake is so clean. You hold the other events in the Grand River, Thornapple River,
Yes.
et cetera. So we have a lot to offer them, and they do us and our local businesses. So we're proud to have them, and they run a great event, well organized with us and Sheriff's Department. And kudos to our Buildings and Grounds. Those folks do a lot to get you
Absolutely.
guys prepped.
They're tremendous.
Yeah, you guys always complimented them, and we appreciate that, and we pass it along.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
Yeah, for the swim, we had our practice swim this weekend at Versluis for an hour, and we had athletes who had done Grand Rapids comment how clean the water was and how it was just the best swim that they've done in the area. So they really, really love this swim. The race is really known for the clarity of the water and how pleasant it is, and athletes really like that because there are some really nasty swims around. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments from the board? Jack, you have something?
I've watched it a number of years. It's positively delightful. I know building and grounds is on top of everything. I also know they have an automatic gate, which I assume will be non-automatic on the day that we're,
Actually, I let them borrow my garage door opener this weekend so they could get in early. We have garage door openers for the sheriff's department, and I let them borrow mine so they could get in there, at 6:30?
Yeah.
Well, you're welcome to come out at 3 in the morning and help us set up if you want.
I'll drive by and click. Yes, we're all set there.
great. The other thing, as a courtesy, it might be a good idea to let the Crystal Creek condos know we're having the event.
Yes.
They're actually involved in this, and yes, we have a plan where they reach out to Joan Vinzi.
Yeah.
Yeah, we took care of that a while ago, and a lot of them participate and volunteer for some of the water safety too, don't they?
Yeah, they provide their boats, which then we put lifeguards on with them, and they're out there, and they're a tremendous partner. Our swim safety coordinator has already been in touch with them and is organizing efforts for the water portion.
Thanks, Jack. Do you have something, Susan?
I don't, only
Okay.
that I was going to say the same thing, that I heard before about Crystal Waters being involved, and I thought that was excellent. Also, do you know that one of our employees is doing the triathlon?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're aware of, yes.
Okay.
We keep an eye on them.
There's a very large crowd following him, we're encouraging him.
I would encourage you all to come out on race day and bring some signs and really, really encourage him. That
Heckle,
would be-
support,
That would be great.
whichever you prefer.
Maybe doing the Ironman?
Hey, that's a big deal. Don't ever say only. I mean, that's just showing up is a big deal, so.
The water quality is amazing. I swam coming in last year, I was watching the fish.
Mhm.
Was that clear?
Yeah, in the Thornapple River, you can't see your hand 6 inches in front of your face.
That's tremendous.
Yep.
Thank you, that's all.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Well, thank you very much, guys.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Forward to seeing you again this
Great.
year, and
Thank you.
good luck. May the weather be good for you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, we'll move on to our new business. Our first item is to consider a proposed land use in the Grand Isle Golf Course PUD. Cameron?
All right, we do have our applicants with us here tonight. I'm going to turn it over to our planning staff, and then I believe a number of you may actually know Dennis. He serves on our Parks and Rec Committee and has been a part of Plainfield Township since long before my time here. So I'm going to turn it over to Elizabeth, who's going to introduce it and go from there.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to see you. I feel like it's been a while since I've been here. So what is being presented today is a proposed assisted living memory care use in the Grand Isle PUD. And this PUD does require that all land uses receive both Planning Commission approval and Township Board approval before they can seek site plan review. So the Planning Commission did approve this land use at their May meeting, which is why it's before you today. So the Grand Isle PUD was originally approved in 2007 as a mixed-use PUD, with this frontage and the neighboring lots planned as commercial land use. Archival Brewery recently took over the clubhouse next door and has put a ton of investment into that property. I'm sure you all have seen it. It looks great, and they're doing well in that location. Additionally, across the street, there's a new commercial strip mall going in, and kitty corner, there's commercial development as well. And in the PUD, further to the east, there's residential planned, which is Riverbend condos, which are developing quickly. And to the south is recreational land. So that's a little bit about the area. And the applicant today is seeking land use approval for something that's a little bit more residential in character than what the zoning calls for. And the master plan for this area does need to be updated. So it's a really good opportunity for you guys to discuss kind of what you want to see in the area, what makes sense moving forward. Staff does have some concerns about land use compatibility in the area, as I've mentioned. But it's really up to you folks to decide kind of what you want to see moving forward. So Bill and I are here if you have any questions. We're happy to answer them for you. We've provided motions both in favor and against. So whichever way you want to go, there's motions there provided. So do you have anything to add, Bill?
Yeah, I'm thinking, I was here back in 2007, so I have a little bit of historical viewpoint there. In talking to some of the board members, give you guys just a little bit of background about the history. So you go back in 2007, this is when the developer, Dan Schimmel, came in, had the golf course, did the gravel mining. This is part of that overall package. Whole area was zoned PUD with this 10-acre-ish area set aside for what would be commercial development. The key is at that time, I think Dennis, you were here at that time too.
I was going to make mention of that, but go ahead.
You're part of the history too. So anyways, at that time, the Township Board, the Planning Commission, when they say commercial development, what's that? At that time, they didn't feel comfortable defining something like, okay, all uses permitted in the C1 and the C2 district are allowed to go in here, because there's some things that they would be comfortable with and some things on C1, C2 chapters at that time, the menu of permitted uses that they weren't comfortable with. So they said, what we're going to do is we want this to be commercial use someday, this 10 acres. So therefore, we're stating that, and then anybody that wants to come back in here needs to get land use approval from both the Planning Commission and the Township Board, as Elizabeth already explained. And some of you might think, okay, reference to what's going on across the street. Back in 2007, you may recall, there was only Everlasting Embroidery. We didn't have for like dentistry. We didn't have the retail strip commercial right there that has the grilling company and the liquor store and the salon, et cetera. That wasn't there. In fact, it was an industrial building, embroidery building. So the Vanderkoy family came along, purchased that property, if I remember correctly, split it off. And so what you see there now, commercial, wasn't there back in 2007. So I want to put that in perspective from a historical standpoint of how here we are dealing with this today. And people say, well, what's commercial mean? That kind of sets the mindset of what they were thinking back then. So they knew they wanted to do something, change it, but they didn't specify beyond that. Hope that helps.
Thank you. Dennis?
Yeah, good evening. Again, I'm Dennis Cole with Naderveld Incorporated, and a long time ago, I was township engineer for Plainfield Township. And I certainly was here in 2007, as Bill indicated. We worked on putting together the PUD at that time, making sure that utilities were in place, and maybe just as importantly, dealing with the floodplain issues that came up. There was sand mining that was going to be involved, and this area that we're looking at here was actually below the floodplain and currently still is, and would be built up to allow for these commercial uses that Bill mentioned. And so, looking at it now on behalf of the client, Build Senior Housing, that wants to put forth an assisted living facility, we see that as really a quasi-commercial / residential use. It has many commercial aspects to it, and yet, being residential in nature, it also fits in well, I think, with the long-term master plan, especially to the west, which is slated to remain residential, and certainly would fit in also to the south, which is the parkland. And the master plan for that always called for soccer fields to be placed, and just, it's got the Frisbee golf course and other passive uses that way. So this would be called Hampton Manor of Belmont. There are currently 14 other Hampton Manors in Michigan. And Cameron, if you can just put up a couple of things I gave earlier. The client that I work with, Zahid Saeed, with Build Senior Housing, is the one responsible for these around the state and actually kind of in the Midwest. This is an example from, I believe, Shelby, Michigan, recently constructed. Just to kind of give you a flavor of what style they're looking at. It's a little bit different perhaps than the ones kind of across the street at Jupiter. And then this one, I believe, is in I forget where this one's located, but this was even more recently constructed. But again, it shows you the generous use of stone and siding and so forth, and kind of gives you a flavor of what they would be building on this particular site. Go back to the site plan. So this particular development would not have any independent living. It would only be assisted and memory care. So in that sense, we're looking at a use which is not, there won't be a lot of in and out activity, a lot of driving or anything else. Residents there would not be driving on a regular basis at all. So the only folks that would be attending and the only traffic generated and so forth would be those who are visiting, and also the staff that would be working there on a day-to-day basis. So, and then again, just to familiarize yourself with the site, if you haven't already, as both Elizabeth and Bill correctly pointed out, you can see the overall PUD here with the residential areas that are now even further built up from when this area was taken, surrounded by the new lake. Those were the residential portions of it. The portion just to the east of that is the Grand Rogue Park area. And then the area where we're looking at now, just to the west of Archival Brewing, were the two commercial properties that were part of the original River Isle PUD. And the developer has taken certainly into consideration the archival brewing business and so forth, and said it would actually be an amenity to the folks that would be living there. Some folks have brought up the fact that that might be detrimental if there's noise or anything else. He says quite contrary. The folks there appreciate having a little activity from time to time and being able to listen to that. There's one other activity that will be coming maybe in the future years, and that's the bike path. And as being on the Parks and Rec Committee, I'm familiar with how that would run through there just to the south of this property. So it would be active modes of transportation that would be coming right on by this site as well. So as was brought up, the Planning Commission reviewed the use, and this was the discussion for you as well, whether that fit in with the master plan and with the surrounding area and with the PUD language, and they felt that it would, and recommended that to you for your thoughts this evening. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have with regards to the use.
Okay, why don't you just hang out for a second, Dennis, because I have to ask if there's any public comment on this issue. So we'll just close that part and move on to board discussion. Unless, Bill, Elizabeth, you have anything further? No? Okay. Customarily, I pass this on, but I feel like I need to go first. I do not find this to be a use for this parcel that makes sense. The history was very helpful, Bill. I think our 2007 predecessors thought correctly about this. I think about what we just went through with the Plainfield, Reimagine Plainfield process. Some type of mixed use here would make a tremendous amount of sense to me. If you're asking us to make an exception or grant this exception, it would have to be something that would benefit this parcel, benefit the PUD in my mind, and I just don't see that. It's just not consistent with what we have going there, what we're trying to accomplish there. And it almost makes me feel bad that we would do that to archival. So kind of for some of those reasons and maybe a couple more, I'm just not seeing our way into doing something like this. But we will move on and have others comment. Frank? You going to defer? I'd like to hear from other board. Okay. That's okay. Okay. Bill, do you have anything?
Was that where they had the Grand Isle golf course down there at that time? I can remember playing golf down there at that time. That was before it all got built up, and that's been about the time you started, about 10 years ago.
I played golf there myself.
The triathlon line did.
Right.
Now, it looks like a nice area. I just wonder, isn't right across the street the best hamburger in Belmont, the Vestal Inn?
The Vestal's kind of kitty corner, yeah.
Yeah, and then I believe you have a new building going up across the street from Vestal, and they'll be able to get alcohol there, right?
I don't, can you?
Yeah, yep, Riverside Liquor is going in, that retail commercial, part of that retail commercial strip mall. They're relocating, yep.
Yeah. That's all I have.
Okay. Jack?
I was on the planning commission and we passed it with one person voting no. My only question is, if we are going to turn this down, what would be in our vision for an adequate item to be placed here? I personally have no vision at all for what could be placed here, and I would be interested in the board letting me know what they would think would be appropriate.
Can I just throw out a quick one? With your Reimagine Plainfield thing, we talked about commercial on a lower level, maybe residential above. Seems to fit the characteristics to me of what might be favorable there, but that's just me. Oops, I'm sorry. Kathy?
Yeah, I agree that it's not a fit, and as far as a vision, I look at this area, and you've got archivals there, and then you've got the ballpark, and you've got the go-karts, and you've got recreation, that I think that would be more of a vision. And to have prime land that is near the water, I just think it's a real misfit that we would put that in that prime of a location.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. Susan?
I too was very concerned about the PUD arrangement for this. I wondered why we weren't more specific, especially when I talked with Bill about how many years ago it was that we had an idea for this, and it didn't materialize when the master plan was revised. But I do see, I think I want something a little more active, similar to the other activities that are in that area. And one of the things that I've been asking for a long time, I keep throwing this out, but no, it's not Chick-fil-A. I knew what they were thinking because I have called on the first of every month for over 2 years to try to get Chick-fil-A to come here, and I've given up now. But there's another restaurant, a family restaurant, and I had hoped that somewhere along Reimagine Plainfield, we would find a spot for them. But as I looked around here, would be a beautiful match. Some sort of family dining, something that would appeal for, go well as a neighbor for archival. And I just don't think this is the right spot for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Kathleen?
Well, I have to agree with all the comments so far. I think keeping in the entertainment, recreation, family, the restaurant kind of thing would be best fit for that area.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I could just make one comment, is that permitted during this time, or?
Well, this is board discussion time, and I didn't hear anybody ask you anything, Dennis, no disrespect, so. Oh, Frank, I forgot about Frank.
I would see it like, recreational. Maybe there could be a kayak/bike rental place because you've got the trails, you've got the water, both, not that far away. So I would look at it more of as a recreational. I'd use it for recreational retail. And I think it fits with everything else that's really there right now. So.
Okay, thank you. So, any further discussion, comments? Everybody's good? Okay, I would seek a motion at this time.
I move that the Township Board deny the applicant's request for land use approval for an assisted living and memory care elderly housing facility at 6232 West River Drive based on the following findings of fact. The use is not consistent with the Grand Isle Golf Course PUD. The use is not consistent with the Township Master Plan. The use is not consistent with the character of the surrounding area.
Thank you, Kathy. Support? Thank you, Susan. Roll call vote, please.
Hey, Mrs. Merrill?
Yes.
Mr. Hagedorn?
Yes.
Ms. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Pfaff?
Yes.
Mr. Brinkman?
Yes.
Ms. Postma, yes. Mr. Coleman?
Yes. Okay, item B is to provide a second reading and consider amendments to the land division ordinance. And Cameron?
Okay. So 1 second, switching gears here. Apologize for that. Okay, so we've changed a little bit internally how we're handling land division applications from a staff perspective. For years, community development has taken that on. Pete Elam was kind of our key person for land divisions. But it also makes a lot of sense, and a lot of communities do it with the assessor taking this on. And so we're making that change now. So that's why Jeff Miller is with us tonight. Not to tell you the value of your home, but to tell you about the changes to the land division ordinance. So, yeah, if microphone reaches down there, Jeff, you want to talk about what we're doing here and why we're proposing some changes?
Sure, absolutely. Hello, everyone. Nice to see everybody again. Glad to be here. Yeah, like Cameron said, we're just kind of making some changes. We're starting the process in the assessing department now, because that's where most people, and like I said, a lot of communities will do that, and we are really the ones that need to initiate on whether something is applicable from our end according to the Land Division Act and the Michigan Survey Act. And then we can obviously move it back over to community development and the planning side of things for the zoning issues and those type of things that we address during the whole process. So basically what we've done is there's a few reasons we went through this to basically clean up some of the language that was in there that we found was either hard to understand, so we're trying to make it easier to understand, because obviously the land division ordinance is something that's out there that an applicant would go look at and try to figure out, hey, what do I need to make this process move forward for them in their request? So we tried to clean that up a little bit. We also want to give them specifics and be more to the point on what they need to bring in that process. So it's something that we can refer back to and we can say, hey, you need this as addressed in section 28-217 or whatever it would be at that point. So we tried to clean some of that up. And then again, like I said, with the Survey Act and the Land Division Act, we also tried to make it coincide with that. So the language that was in there mirrored that and was along with what the state of Michigan has in their information. We also added some items in there. There was a definition that was missing from even previous times before we made the corrections and adjustments to what we're recommending now. And then we also added through our attorneys a section on what are the parameters of combining lots that really wasn't addressed in the land division ordinance. So we wanted to have some direction on how they go about that process and what can and cannot be done and move forward from there. And then finally, we also removed some redundancy within the document. There are a lot of items that I think were probably brought in from other ordinances over time, and they were just redundant to those other ordinances, so we cleaned some of that up and removed them. And then probably the last thing that was of the biggest help I think I saw for the people that would be applying is we removed several items that originally was calling out that they had to provide certain things that could be costly to them. So we didn't want to make them do costly items and spend their money if they weren't in the end going to get approved possibly. So you wouldn't want to spend $2,000 on a survey to be told 90 days later that you can't do it. So we cleaned up some of that process too, so people weren't incurring costs that they didn't need to.
Thanks, Jeff. I once again have to ask if there's public comment. There isn't any, so we will just close that part and move on. So, board discussion on this? Frank, you have anything? Jack?
I work with staff.
Fantastic, thanks. Susan? I have my question. Thank you. Kathleen?
All set.
All right, Kathy? Good. Bill? Bill's good too. So am I, so motion please.
I move to approve the ordinance to adopt and enact a new land division ordinance as proposed.
Thank you, Frank. Support?
Second.
Thanks, Jack. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hagedorn?
Yes.
Ms. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Pfaff?
Yes.
Mr. Brinkman?
Yes.
Mrs. Morrow?
Yes,
Ms. Postmus? Yes, and Mr. Coleman?
Yes. All right, moving right along. Ready or not, here comes your comments.
All right. Moving right along is really the sentiment of first couple of comments here. I wanted to just give you a quick update. Our utility work, we've got a lot of stuff going on, and maybe we've all just become numb to it because we're going into year 3 of a lot of stuff going on, but we have really a lot of water main project going on, and given all the circumstances surrounding it, it's going really smoothly. And I'm appreciative to to our staff, to Prine and Newhoff, to all the various contractors working on these projects. Everyone's working diligently to make sure that projects are staying on task. We had to deal with material delays. We've been able to work through that. Kudos to Matt Weldon for thinking ahead, and even though he ordered materials ahead, which we typically do not do, even then, we still ran into delays with the product that we had ordered 6 months in advance. So that's the kind of environment they're working in right now. And we all recognize that the economy is not what it was 3 years ago in terms of expectations as a consumer. You expect to get this product and you expect it to be on the shelf, and it's not. And so same thing for our crews working on installing water mains. The water main just doesn't exist. It's not that you can't get it in Michigan or somewhere, it just hasn't been made. And it's an issue of getting the raw materials to the foundries and getting it made. And even if you have your name in line, it doesn't mean you're gonna get it when you want it. So I appreciate everyone that's working hard to keep these projects on task, because we do have a lot, especially this year, and we did last year too. It's really crucial that one project get done in time for the next crew to start, because they have to pick up where the last crew left off. So far, it's working really well. Minimal disruption, just the water main disruption. So the area up by 10 Mile, a lot of that water main is in. You probably noticed from Matt Weldon, made a comment last week to the Infrastructure Committee that the water main's in. It's having some leaks, and I think a lot of that is valves and joints that had problems from the manufacturing process. And so they're working through that. It's not a contractor issue. It's not a deficiency of installation. It's just the product was faulty. So they're working through that and getting it done and keeping on task. So really appreciate that, and we should all be encouraged by what they've been able to accomplish, and they're thinking ahead to next year already. Matt's already getting product lined up for next year. So keeping our what should be the final year of the Wolverine water main extensions is next year. Even when we started, even before COVID, I didn't know if we'd get it done in 4 years. It's such a monumental task to do basically 25 miles of water main with all the various connections and challenges. I was optimistic that we could, but being realistic, I thought we'd run into something, and we might yet, something that pushes us into a 5th year. But right now, we're still on pace to get done 4 years. So that's really remarkable. And give Prine Newhoff a lot of credit for their work in keeping things going and keeping things well-structured that way. Another thing that's moving on really well for us is our local road paving program for this year. I got notification from the Road Commission this morning that they're gonna start up again, and they contract that out, right? So they're at the mercy of the contractors because they give them as much time as possible to that flexibility works for lowering price. So they've actually jumped on some of our work early this year. There's sections off of 4 Mile that were completed, I think in April already, April into May. And now they're gonna hit the Belmont Center area. So right around this area, certain neighborhoods will be getting some fresh pavement, and that's beginning at the end of the month. So that's a good sign. Typically, we don't get onto a lot of our local road projects till later in the summer, moving into fall, and that's because a lot of the pavers are working on bigger MDOT projects, and we're at the mercy of whenever those projects wrap up. So, and we still are. It's just that there must be a window right now where it's working for the contractors. So, you will see activity at the end of the month around this area, and usually when they come in, it's pretty quick. If they need to mill off a surface, usually they do that one day and come in and repave the next day or add an overlay or whatever they're gonna do. Usually it's about a 2 to 3 day process. Very rarely do they leave something kind of all broken up and open for much longer than, say, maybe a week. So expect to see some little disruption, but some fresh pavement in a month's time here. The last comment I had, and just a reminder for everyone, next meeting, we're gonna go back to our workshop format, and this will be kind of our second go at that, and see what we think about doing this kind of approach with the formal meeting, the first meeting of the month, and the workshop, the more casual meeting, the second meeting. As a reminder, we're going to talk about our current senior center and programming. I've invited our director, Christine Freet, to come and share how the program operates so that everyone can be on a level playing field in terms of knowledge of the current program. And, you know, I want to make sure that the facts are out there, and then leave it to the policy deciders on how you want to run your community and how you want to run this operation. So that will be our primary topic for next meeting. We'll still have a consent agenda to approve, but I'm really leaving space for this discussion, so I'm not loading the agenda with a number of topics. In August, we'll move to our first budget workshop, and so that will be the primary item there. So usually that's an hour and a half discussion, depending on how many questions you might have. And we'll work through the general fund budget and take that preliminary look at where we're going to shape up for 2023. Then we get to, I'm looking ahead already to September, and I've got items in my mind, but I also want to be conscientious too. If there's certain topics that you as board members want to talk about as a group, please just let me know, and I'll find a space to make that happen. And if there's, you know, this is a good time for these bigger items, you know, as we talk about what is our vision for this. This is the space where we can take the time to talk about that, and I really like the informal format of the workshop. I think it's a lot easier when I don't have to turn my head side to side like this. And I know you appreciate that too. So we're going to give that a try, see how we like it, and give me topics if there's certain things that you feel that we need to be talking about or getting on the same page with. And I'll try to work those into the schedule. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Cameron. So it is board member comment time. Bill, do you have anything tonight?
Well, just the good news, we got the taxes right out on the 1st of July, and everybody was looking forward to that they would get it. Nice pink color and everything, but that was our love letter, and it got out in time. And sometimes that's difficult, but that worked out this well.
Did I forget to say thank you for that, Bill?
Yeah, you can say, I'll accept that.
Okay.
It's when you don't pay them that you get the problem.
There you
Well,
go.
when I saw the pink notice, I'm like, wait a minute, I don't have any bills that are past due, because what's going on? So for a second there, I was like, and then
Pink slip, Frank.
Oh, we just thought you liked that color pink, so we sent that to you that way. Well, you have to differentiate between the two seasons, but we had quite a few people from BSNA training our new assistant treasurer there, and two ladies that came down. BSNA is a very effective organization. I have been trained by them in their facility, but I know that they keep doing this throughout with Kent County Treasurers Association. They have meetings where they do it, and they're very effective. And that's probably one of our best investments we ever made, to tell you the truth. And it's going really well. And all systems are go is what I got to say.
Okay, thank you, Bill. If I write return to sender on it, will you take care of that for me, or no?
I'm sorry, say again?
No, I'm just giving you.
I wasn't paying attention. I switched.
Yeah, I'll bet. Kathy, you have anything?
I'm good, other than I look forward to the master plan and the vision for the West River Drive and what we do there.
Super, thank you. Kathleen?
Next week, Thursday, on the 21st, is our public testing of our election equipment at 3 in the afternoon, so I encourage anybody to come and check it out, and you're welcome to help run ballots through and see how the whole test process works. So.
All right, thank you. Susan?
A reminder to, I'm not sure who on the board said that you would be scoopers tomorrow, but we're scooping at ice cream at the senior center at noon, and I'm not, it's one of the largest attendance at this event, so there's another meeting at 1 o'clock, and I just wanted to ask if we came in a little messed up with ice cream all over us, will you start that meeting a little bit late? Or are you scooping? Who's scooping?
What do you think, Kathy? What do
You're
you think?
scooping, Bill's scooping.
I'm scooping.
Kathy's
So-
scooping.
I thought it was 11:30.
I know the luncheon, the ice cream social starts at 12 o'clock. And the governance committee has a 1 o'clock.
Okay, I thought it was,
11:30 to socialize with the seniors.
oh, okay.
11:30 to find a parking space within
So
3 miles.
I have a conflict.
Yeah, yeah. It's the parking issue that's the issue. Anyway, and then governance committee is at 1 o'clock, so just heads up. I too wanted to compliment Matt on his memos. I missed the infrastructure meeting. There are some times that I just feel we need to see these people, and they think of things, they answer questions from other people in the room. And so I appreciate Matt's memo, but we didn't talk to Matt. And somehow or other, I feel like I really appreciate them when they can spend a little time with us. And another thing that I appreciate, and I don't want them to come spend time with us, is trying to Newhouse calendar of the things that are going on. Holy cow, that is just fantastic as far as being informed of what's going on in the community, just with the projects. I also appreciate you getting us a copy of the letters that have gone to people's homes. 2 people said something about, they live in the Northville area, and they just said, I got your letter. And that really, I was very, very pleased for that, very pleased. And I don't think there's anything else, but thank you.
Okay, thanks, Susan. Jack?
I'm good, thanks.
All right, Frank?
I know it's been said already, but, as being part of the infrastructure committee, Matt, Brian and Newhoff, the problem is when you start naming names, you're gonna leave somebody out, but just everybody involved with the infrastructure committee, they have such vision, and to order these things ahead of time, and just considering COVID, considering hyperinflation, that we're on track. I mean, that's a huge undertaking, and we're just, again, reminded of how blessed we are with the people we work with in Plainfield Township, so.
Frank, you said that exceptionally well. We have 3 other employees sitting right over there that do a fantastic job. We have a couple in the back that, well, even Chief does a good job. No, we are blessed to work with such a tremendous team here at the township, and all of you make our jobs a lot easier, period. So with that, thank you, everyone, and we are adjourned.